My family's actually from Norway. Quite a few generations back, actually. It's my great-great-grandma that moved from Norway to America. So my grandma has been in contact with a distant relative for probably 15 years or more. I'm not sure. And she went to Norway one time and visited him. His name's Idava. So she had his address and she had his email. So when I was in Norway, I emailed him when I was in an area that was like a 30-minute drive from where he lived. And so I emailed him. I think he was sick the one week I was going to try and visit, but then eventually we were able to just go stop by. I was just gonna go try and see if I could find their house from the address that he had sent me in the email. So I went and bought flowers from the store, and then we tried to find their house, and it was so hard. Like, we kept driving on all these streets because the streets are just kind of crazy, and we had a GPS and everything, but it was so hard to find their house. This was the address that my grandma had sent me. And so finally we come to this house, and I'm like, okay, I think this is the house. So I go knock on the door, and it was not the house. But the guy that answered, I was like, hi, I'm from America and I'm living in Norway now, and I'm looking for my relative that lives here in Nashnes. And then I told him his name, and the guy that answered the door, he's like, that's my friend. And it was a crazy story because Norwegians, they're very private people, and they have like a few close friends. It's not like in America where, you know, meet someone and then boom, immediately they're your friend. Or, you know, I feel like in America things are more surface level, and it's easy to be like friends with people without having like really deep relationships. But Norwegians, they have very deep relationships with people, and so because of that they have a smaller circle of friends. And so it was crazy that I had managed to find the wrong house, but that it was one of his best friends. Then he was like, no, this is the complete wrong side of the city. Here's his real address. Here's his phone number. And then he's like, I'll call him and tell him that you're coming. And I was like, oh no. Okay, so then we finally found the house, and it was getting kind of late, so we had to hurry home because it was starting to get dark and I didn't want to like scare them. So we like walk out of the car, and we're like walking up to the door, and I see someone kind of like looking through the window. Like, they're looking at us thinking, what are these people doing? Because you don't just go knock on anyone's door, you know. It's kind of weird if ever a stranger comes up to your door and they're like not invited. But anyway, I knock on the door and they're like, hi. They seem nervous because their friend had called them and said, there's 2 English ladies that are coming to visit you. Like, that's the words he used. He didn't say like girls or Americans. He said there's 2 English ladies. So they were like expecting like women. I don't look very old, and when I came and knocked on their door, they're like, oh, like we didn't expect such cute girls that are just so nice and pleasant to come visit us. We were like intimidated, and we thought we were gonna have to speak English with you because our friend had told us that you were English. And so they were really nervous because they're like, oh, now we have to try and speak English because apparently she's our relative and all this. And so when I was just speaking Norwegian to them, they're like, wow, this is so easy. Like, we were really nervous for you to come visit us because I'm just some stranger that's gonna come knock on their door and speak in a foreign language. But that's the night of how I found my family. And then they invited me back. They were like, please come to dinner. Please come share a message. Tell us a little bit more about why you're here, because I wasn't able to stay very long that night. So I was living in a place called Asker, but then I moved to Drammen, but luckily that wasn't too far from where they lived, so I could still visit them from where I was living later in a couple months after that. So that was one of my crazy stories, was finding my family in Norway, which meant a lot to me. And originally when I went to Norway, that was my big motivation for learning Norwegian, because I wanted to find my family and look them in the eye and say, I learned Norwegian for you, and I worked hard so I could communicate with you and tell you about what's so important to me and why I would come all the way here and learn this language. So it was really special for me to be able to meet them.